I would prefer them to have a great credit score because once again, say for it comes down to it that we are going to establish some things.
Mhm.
Maybe we want to flip homes.
Mhm.
So if we want to flip homes and my credit is the one that's going to, be out there that's excellent, and then yours is, I hate to say it, trash, then we have to think twice about me and you because
Yeah.
that tells me that somewhere along the line you didn't figure life out.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Flip That Switch. I'm your boy B to the Sis Naive, and we back with another episode. If you didn't get a chance, please go back and watch the previous episode. We talked about childhood trauma with my boy Anthony, and so if you didn't get a chance, please go back and watch that. Very, very powerful episode. As a matter of fact, before you watch this, go back and watch that one. But today, I want to talk a little bit about being 60 and single. And what better guest to have on than the person who is exactly, at that stage in her life right now. And so this woman right here that I have to my right is really just my ride or die. She has been raising me on her own for the past 40 years. Yeah, and I say 40 years because she's still raising me. This woman is the epitome of just going out and getting it, handling her business, taking care of her bills all by herself. She's just been handling things all her life. She really has understood what the value of a dollar is. She's been working, she's been grinding. I don't know. There's a lot of good things that I could say. It would literally take a whole day for me to just go through everything that this woman has accomplished and done in her life. But I'm proud to call her my mother just because she's just been my ride or die.
Aww.
And, she's been mother to me. She's been father to me. She's been someone that's been truly an inspiration to me, role model, everything you can possibly think of. So with that being said, without further ado, I'd like to welcome my mother to the episode. What's up, moms?
Hey, everybody. How are y'all today?
So, first and foremost, thank you, moms, for coming on and doing the episode with me, taking time to do it with me. I really, truly appreciate that. But
no problem.
We just kind of want to talk a little bit about your story, about kind of what the things that you've gone through, your expectations, and kind of where you are now.
Yeah.
That, you're 60 years old. She just turned 60 last November. So that in itself is an accomplishment, a milestone that deserves all the flowers in the world. But we just kind of want to get your story and talk a little bit about some of the things that you've gone through and kind of where you are now. So you ready to dive right in?
Yes, let's dive right in.
Okay. So, moms, you've been on this earth 60 years. Ooh.
Yes, I have.
Which means you had me at 20.
Yes.
So back in the 20s and 30s, kind of talk to us a little bit about what dating was like for you, kind of what you expected when you dated, and just kind of what you were looking for in that area when you were kind of dating back in the gap.
Well, when I was in my 20s, I did wear my heart on my sleeve. So I kind of took, like I take it now, as far as I take relationships very serious.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we do come across those that were okay. And then there was some that were not so okay. As you get older, you get wiser.
Mm-hmm.
And so my 20s, actually, I can honestly say it wasn't so bad. I went out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of
and
those.
She was a party animal.
Yes, I was. If anybody that's from Chicago know, I love my house music.
Hey.
So yes, I was out there getting my party on. But I will say that dating back in my 20s, it wasn't so bad. It really wasn't. There were some things, and I could have done better, but for the most part, it wasn't so bad.
So in your 20s, I mean, because obviously in your 20s, we're going back to like the 80s.
Right.
Would you graduate in 84?
I graduated from Evanston Township in 1983.
1983.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So obviously dating was way different than it is these days.
That is correct.
what were some certain things that you looked for back in the gap when you were dating? Like when you met a man, what was something that told you, okay, this is somebody that I can give an opportunity to? What were some of the things you were looking for?
So I basically was looking for somebody that's God fearing, that really believed in God,
Hmm.
and I also was I didn't want someone that was overly religious, but I wanted someone to just make sure that I was equally yoked with.
Got it.
So, in my 20s, when I would date, the dates, like I said, there is definitely different now because unfortunately there was a difference of things that were not readily available. Like,
Hmm.
some had, okay jobs, and then, their date is, hey, let's go out for pizza versus now let's go to the fancy restaurant, and let's spend a little money. So
Right, right.
then you just really was not about that, I need to have this and that, and you have to have this and that. I mean, we took men for, hey, you know what, as long as they're out there grinding and doing what they're supposed to do, they are okay. And a lot of times we were able to bring our men home to our parents to meet them,
Mm,
so my father really didn't meet a lot of them, but my mom did meet some.
okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So because the men that you met kind of they were different, you didn't really have a lot of expectations back then. It wasn't like, so you didn't like, it wasn't like he had to be 6'5", he had to have abs, it was just kind of like, as long as he, was God fearing and he talked like he had some sense,
Exactly.
you were good with that. That was a good
Exactly.
start.
Yeah, that was a good start. He had a job. They would always say, we would say, you have to have a JOB, an APT, and a CAR. That was our motto back then.
Oh, so a
So,
job,
yes,
apartment, and a car.
exactly. Exactly.
Not a house. They just
They
had to
had
have
to
an
have an
apartment.
apartment. They had to have an apartment. They didn't have to have property. They just had to have an apartment.
Okay, cool. So back then, would you say that, and obviously because you're my mom, you was definitely an attractive woman. Would you say that you had a lot of men on your heels? Like a lot of men that wanted to date you and approach you? Was it that type of situation?
It was.
Oh,
It was. It
oh,
was that situation.
okay, okay. So you was a little player.
So
Okay.
I did. I mean, I did. But back then we had beepers. We had the big phones and we had beepers. So we're talking about 20s.
Yeah.
Then yeah, we had those beepers and those pagers, and that was that was
Okay.
interesting back then.
Okay. Cool.
Hmm.
Cool. So fast forward to now. Let's say you're in your 30s and your 40s.
Okay.
How do you think times have changed as far as dating? So back then you said, you kind of wanted them to have an apartment, car,
Hmm.
job, and that was cool. So as you got mature, and now we're into our 30s and 40s, and of course you have me at this point. What were your expectations then? How did they change? Like now, what were you looking for?
So what I was looking for was fulfillment. I wanted someone to make sure that I mean, I wasn't digging into your credit,
Hmm.
but I wanted to make sure that we were able to establish something, because then you take that portion of dating a little bit more serious, because now we're
Hmm.
talking about family, white picket fence, the good jobs, so we can go out and have homes instead of APTs. So it's like I had my stipulations were a little bit more on point as I got older versus than when I was in my 20s.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And with me being in the mix, obviously, on the first date, would you let them know you had a child, or would you wait until like you felt like it was going somewhere before you told them, "Hey, I got a child, by the way"?
So what I did was I was upfront with them,
Okay.
because I wanted to know what are you doing with me?
So this is
And
a first date conversation.
so exactly, because a
Okay.
lot of times those are deal breakers for some.
Hmm.
So I wanted to make sure, yes, I have a son, and his dad is not in a picture, but I do have a son.
Okay.
And I wanted them to know. So, there's not going to be another date. I was okay with that. Long
Yeah.
as you know that me and my son is a package deal, you need to know this.
That's exactly what was my next question. Did you let them know we are a package deal?
I
You
did.
accept me and you accept?
Yes, I did.
Did that weed out a lot of dudes?
No, it did not. Because 9 times out of 10, they probably had kids too. Okay. So no, it did not.
So when you would tell them that, they would be like, "Oh, okay, cool. You got a son, so be it.
Yeah,
That's not a deal breaker for me."
exactly. Exactly. No one really had a problem with it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never experienced anyone saying, "Oh, you got children, so a child, so I'm done." No, that was not a problem.
Nice. Okay.
Because they shouldn't even, I mean, you shouldn't even look, you know, these things, and that shouldn't be a reason. That shouldn't be a deterrence,
That shouldn't be a
from
deal breaker.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did anybody ask you what was the dynamic with the father, why he wasn't in the picture?
So if they were to ask me on the first date,
Hmm.
then that would be kind of a red flag for me because I feel like there's only so much that we should be discussing right now. Yes, I have a child,
Hmm.
this food is good, and then we could just talk, and get to know one another.
Right.
And then maybe a couple of times down the line, if you want to know, what happened, and if I'm willing to give you that information, I would give it. And if I feel like it was a little too early for that kind of conversation, then I wouldn't have it.
Got you. So that
Yeah.
would be a red flag if they ask right away, like,
I
"Hey,
believe
what?"
so.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, I do believe so.
Okay. And so now that you are 60, now kind of talk to me a little bit about what your expectations are for the man that you come across.
Okay. So the man that I come across, listen, I want them to have, if you can have just as much as I have, that's excellent.
Hmm.
I don't expect you to run around here, driving a Mercedes Benz and stuff, but please have transportation.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that you are definitely a God-fearing person. You have to be in somebody's church. I want to make sure that we are equally yoked. So meaning that I'm a Christian and I would like for you to be one as well.
Hmm.
We're not talking about any other religion other than Christianity.
Facts.
I also want them to make sure that if their mother is still alive, please pay a key role in her life.
Mm.
You know.
Wow. Wow. You could tell so much from a man by how he treats his mother.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yes, you definitely can.
And listen to what she said, y'all. She's talking about even at this age, how are you treating your mother?
Exactly.
Because the reality is, as we get older, the level of respect and love that we have for our parents, or if not parents, parent, it should get even more and more and more, especially as they get older.
Right.
So, it's funny. One of the criteria that I had when I was dating was I needed to also see how she treated her family, because
Yeah.
that was going to tell me. Because my thing is this: if you'll treat your family like crap, you'll treat me like crap.
Exactly.
It's that simple. So that was my criteria too. Okay, so how he treats his mother, he needs to be at least on the same level as you as far as like out here grinding and getting it. And what
Exactly.
else? God fearing, of course. That's goes without saying.
God fearing. And
Um, but what else?
I would, and basically you'll know how a person is, especially when they are, like I stated earlier, even if, say, for your mom is gone or
Hmm.
deceased, or big
Hmm.
mama's gone and deceased, then how are you towards your sister?
Hmm.
Because I have, of course, everybody's on social media, and I have friends, guy friends that are on social media
Hmm.
that anytime there's an anniversary of the death of their mom or my mom's birthday, it just warms my heart to sit there and watch them put that out there and saying happy heavenly birthday to my mom. Or if this person's mom was on in the hospital, and they're having their head on their chest, and
Hmm.
they're just like, man, I can't wait for you to get better. So that kind of stuff I admire from a man. That is one of the things that I, want to see happening, as far as, how you treat your,
Your family.
family.
Yeah. Family dynamic is important for you.
Exactly.
Because we have a big
Exactly.
family.
We do. We
My
have a
my
large.
my my mom's father, my grandfather, who recently passed away, he was one of 14.
Hmm.
And what's crazy is out of the 14, I think eight of them are still alive.
Yes.
8 of them are still alive out of the 14. And so family is big. Family is key. How they interact with their family, how they treat their family. That is something that weighs a lot, you know, is what you're
Exactly.
saying.
Is exactly what I'm saying. And also, one of the things I will say too, and it's I know it's probably going to tickle Brandon. You better have some life insurance, okay? That is, I'm very serious about that.
No, for sure.
Yeah, you better have some life insurance because I think that's one of the smartest things that a person could do with their
Absolutely.
life is have life insurance. And I don't care what your credit score looks like, but you better have life insurance.
Okay, so credit score is not a it's not a major deal breaker for you.
So let me
I was
elaborate
about
on
to
that.
say,
Let me elaborate on that.
because you said it. Wait, hold up. I need you to elaborate
So
because
I'm
you
gonna
just
elaborate on that.
you listen. Let me tell you something. You just all the dudes with credit scores of
Right.
350 and 450 are like,
Exactly.
oh,
Right.
oh, okay, cool.
Like, yeah, let me get in touch with Brandon's
Yeah,
mother.
yeah.
But no, what it is that I would prefer them to have a great credit score because once again, say for it comes down to it that we are going to establish some things.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we want to flip homes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to flip homes and my credit is the one that's going to, be out there that's excellent and then yours is, I hate to say it, trash, then we have to think twice about me and you because
Yeah.
that tells me that somewhere along the line you didn't figure life out, so you need to figure life out. You got to have some kind of a good credit score. If you're in your 20s and 30s and your credit's okay, I get it because you're just still trying to figure things out. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're 60 years old and your credit is not
At your
great
big old age.
at your beyond big old age, we don't have a problem.
Yeah. No, seriously. Like if you in your 50s and 60s and your credit's jacked up, like what are we doing?
Exactly.
And I'm not gonna judge you, but it is gonna be a situation where it's like, what are we doing? Because
Right.
at this stage in the game, you should be great. Like you should already have gone through what you've gone through. And I know I get it at your 50s and 60s, stuff happens, life happens, and you can still get hit with something catastrophic. But in a normal situation, 50s and 60s, your credit should be like A1.
And let me know because that is a red flag. Yes.
Is that a question you asking on a, how many dates in before you ask that?
So, wow.
Is that a first date question?
That's not a first date question, but I think that somewhere along the line, if we're trying to get to know one another, somewhere around the way, I'm going to find out.
But do you think that should be a first date question? Because here's my thing. When you're at the age, right, at that age, right, you're really not trying to waste no time, right?
That's true.
So why would you get 6 or 7 dates in to ask somebody for them to be like, oh, by the way, my credit scores are 400, for you to be like, okay, well, see you later. Like, should that be a first date question?
So I don't think it should be a first date question because now because as far as I'm concerned, you're really trying to get to know one another.
Okay.
So now you're like, okay, is there going to be a second date or a third date? However, that third date, you should be like, I'm thinking about buying some property. So that's how you hustle your way in and say, I'm thinking about buying some property. And, hey, if things go in the direction that I would like for them to go, then what do you think about me and you purchasing something together and seeing where we go with that?
And seeing how they respond to that.
Yeah, and they be like, well, and you hear that. You're like, okay, red flag.
So I get that. That's a totally way to good. So would you say, what do you think about that? Or would you say, hey, by the way, if we do get into something like that, where's your credit? So I can know, like, is it something we can do right away? Or is it something we have to wait for you to do some things, to pay off some things? Would you ask them like that? Or would you be like, oh, okay.
Yes.
So you would kind of just throw that on up in there.
Yes.
Dang.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Little genius self.
Yeah, I definitely would.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because no one has time to play games. No one has time to be sitting around here trying to be a serial dater and all this other stuff. We're not going to be boyfriend and girlfriend for 3 years out. And you should know by now whether or not you want to be with me. And especially, like I said, at this age. I mean, I got one granddaughter so far.
Right.
And, I'm not getting any younger.
Right.
I mean, so.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Is kids a deal breaker? Would kids be a deal breaker for you today, like right now?
It depends on the age. I hate
What
to
what
say
age
this.
what age would they have to be for you to be like, okay, I can roll with this?
If they can be perhaps 10 and older, 10 and older for
Okay,
me.
so they can be 10 years old and you'll still be like, okay, cool. But anything under that, no.
Right, exactly.
Can I ask you why 10 is the number?
Because 10 is the number for me because keep in mind I'm 60 right now. And
Yep.
say for some, gentleman that might be younger than me has a young child.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna be 70 years old going to this kid's eighth grade graduation. So they can say, who was that, your grandmother? No, this is my mom, my stepmom. No,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. That's okay.
Do you have an age range on how old a man has to be, at least?
I do. I will say 55 and older.
So nothing under 55.
It just depends on the individual. It depends on the individual. I mean, if he's like, okay, so I'll put it to you like this: if he's 52
Hmm.
and above, then I'm good. If he's under 52, then no, I don't.
What if he had like an emotional intelligence though? What if he was 45, but he was mature, he had everything going for himself? You wouldn't even consider it just
No,
because of the
because
age?
he's 5 years older than you. I'm gonna be feeling like I'm dating my son. Absolutely not. No, no, sir. But thanks for asking. No,
Wow.
no.
That's okay. So he's got to be at least 52.
Yes, he has to be 52.
And if he has kids, they need to be at least 10 years old.
Exactly.
Okay, that's some pretty particular criteria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now that you are 16, you're single, right?
Hmm.
And you are single. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So you're currently not dating.
I'm not dating, no.
Okay. How are you embracing your singleness? Like, what are some of the things that you're okay? Actually, first of all, let me step back here. Do you desire to be with a man? Do you desire to have a man?
If I have one and I feel like God has fashioned that man to come into my life, then yes. But
Okay.
now that I know what I know now, I do have that discernment radar up at
Yeah.
all times.
Yeah.
So I don't sit around and ponder because I'm not dating.
Mm.
I'm single, sassy, and fulfilled as far as I'm concerned.
And you are sassy. You do. You got a juicy, sassy mouth on you. You
I,
are that. Tell you that. Shoot.
Single time, I'm embracing it because I do everything on my own, and when I need something to get done, I know how to pick up the phone and have somebody do it, or I'll do it myself. So I don't. I'm not saying that I don't need a man because I know there's a lot of women out there that do state that, and
Hmm.
I'm not buying that. I will never buy that because it'd be nice to get one. However, right now, God doesn't. He's not fashioned anybody in my life as of yet, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that eventually it happened, even though I'm 60. So, it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. You're okay with. You're embracing your singleness.
Yes.
You're doing things to better yourself
Right.
and get your mind right and get you right.
On the health aspect of it, my inner soul. I read, affirmations.
Mm.
I love music.
Hmm.
So I listen to a lot of music. I listen to all genres of music. So I'll watch, different podcasts on YouTube. And so I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about myself over the years. So,
Wow. That is
yes.
awesome. That is awesome.
To work
Like,
on a better me.
absolutely. Because you have to prioritize yourself and self care. And you have to make sure that you are in a position to where when God is ready to send you that man, you're ready to receive him. Because a
Exactly.
lot of
Thank you.
people, a lot of people desire a man or desire a woman and
And they ain't ready.
they ain't ready.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think God is really looking out for you and letting you know by not maybe blessing you with that situation that you're not ready. There's some things you need to focus on. There's some
Right.
things you need to do. You need to seek me.
Yep.
You need, stop trying to lean onto your own understanding of what you think you want in a man or a woman. You know,
Exactly.
all the physical stuff, that stuff is gonna wear off.
Exactly.
You know, when they get when they get older, that stuff is gonna wear off. And the one thing that they're gonna have that you're gonna need is character and integrity and just making sure that they're treating you like the queen or the king every single day, and they have the desire to do that. And so a lot of times when you look at the surface level situations, that's not going to get you where you need to be in the long run. Yeah, it looks good now. Yeah, the photos are going to look good.
Hmm.
The trips are going to look good with you and Bay on the beach and stuff like that.
Right.
But that stuff wears off,
It
man.
definitely wears off. It gets old, and then next thing you know, you look like you're not gonna look like you looked 20 or 30 years ago. That's why a lot of times when people say very negative things about people, I
Yeah,
just brush it off because I don't like it, and
yeah.
because you're not gonna look like that bottle, shape like
The Coke bottle
from
shape.
right exactly
Yeah,
from 20 versus when you turn 60. So you definitely need to take better care of yourself. And like I said, I read affirmations all the time, and I'm one of those, and I love Proverbs. It's
mm,
like my favorite, readings in the Bible. So I just feel like being 60 right now, and like you stated earlier, Brandon, if once if God does fashion somebody to come in my life, hopefully everything is on point within me, inner and outer.
absolutely.
Hmm.
What are some things you like to do for fun?
So I
Besides, stepping is the. I mean, shoot, we could just leave it at stepping alone. But
yeah,
yeah, what are some things you like to do for fun?
I mean, I like to go out and party. I love
Mm-hmm.
barbecues. I love
Mm,
going to visit, family. I like to eat, try different restaurants. I love the water.
mm-hmm.
So if I can just have a house built on Lake Michigan, I would be in heaven. But December, January, and February, then we gonna have to move
Right,
somewhere else,
right.
for those winter months. But on the same token, I really I love doing things, and I like going out and with my family. Like Saturday nights, I like going to house parties on once again house head. So I love
House music.
church.
Yeah.
Um, I love going to pop up venues.
Mm.
Somebody call and say, "Hey, this is what I got going on," and you like, "Okay, I gotta be there in an hour." Really? Okay, I'm on my way. So yeah, I might get there a little late, but I'm on my way.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I just love how you just live in life unapologetically. And I
Hmm.
like the fact that you still get out and have fun. Just
Yes.
because you're single doesn't mean you have to just be cooped up in the house on the couch. Why? And sometimes that's cool. Some nights that is a-okay, but
Hmm.
I love the fact that you still get out, you still step, you know, and she is my mom is a great stepper. And
Thank you.
I don't even understand how at 60 they step for like 4 or 5 hours at a time. I'd be like, my knees would be out of there if it was me, but they still get out. You still get out there, you have fun, you step, like you said, you go to parties, you go to concerts, you hang out with
Yes.
family, you best friends with your cousins,
Yes.
and y'all just still just live life and embrace truly what life is supposed to be about.
Yes.
I
Yes.
truly truly love that. All right, so I always ask this question to people to kind of in the episode. So obviously you are 60 years old, and let's say 60-year-old Angie is talking to 25, 30-year-old Angie. Y'all are sitting across from the table talking to each other. 25 and 30-year-old Angie is single, and they're trying to figure out why they're single, or maybe it's having a negative impact on their lives, and they just don't want to be single. They desire somebody, or they want to be out here dating, but it's just hard for them not right now, and they come to you for advice because being 60 years old, I mean, shoot, you've forgotten more than a lot of people have learned. You have a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of knowledge. You are a book of knowledge, and you have experience in the dating game. You have
Mhm.
experience in life in general. And if they come to you and like, hey, I need some advice on this, what would you tell them?
Well, if you're talking about 25, as far as now,
Yeah.
okay, now.
So you now are talking to the 25-year-old Angie. What would you tell her? in those
Okay, well, the
moments?
25-year-old Angie, I would be like, make sure you got, try to further your education and
Mm,
get you a degree
mm,
in something.
mm,
And as you get older, don't settle for a lot of these jobs out here. Make sure you make a career,
mm-hmm,
because a lot right now we have, where people can get jobs
mm-hmm,
and they're stagnant in that particular position. So make sure that you focus on having a career,
mm-hmm,
and then also try to climb as high as you can within that company
mm-hmm,
to be that VP and that CEO of that company.
mm-hmm,
Also, make sure that you have your finances in order.
mm,
Make sure that you are a God fearing person, that you
mm-hmm,
love God, and make, as a matter of fact, put Him first.
mm-hmm,
Go to and you, if you need to go to Him in prayer, then do that
mm-hmm.
before you just try to establish anything.
Nice.
There's been times where I've done that, and I went to God and said, "God, should I do this?" Or,
Mm-hmm,
and God is like, "No," and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna
mm-hmm.
listen to you. I ain't gonna do it."
Yeah.
So yeah. So basically, I would just advise them to just be careful. Those red flags that you get,
Mm-hmm,
make sure that you take heed to them. Just don't shrug them under the rug and say, okay, this is going to get better. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not.
mm,
Take heed to those red flags,
mm-hmm.
and love on your parents, your family. Um, and that's pretty much the advice I have for you.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
would piggyback on the red flags. Don't wait too late.
exactly.
The red flags, if you see them, pay attention to them.
Yes.
People are going to show you who they are. People are going
Yes.
to show you their true selves at some point. When they show you their true selves, you listen to them. You pay attention to those red flags, and you do not entertain any longer, because one red flag is going to turn into two, into three, and before you know it, you so sucked in,
Yep.
it's going to be hard for you to get out.
It is.
And one thing I've loved about my mom is that my mom has a BS radar. Like, seriously,
Seriously.
if she senses it, or she sees that it's there or it's coming down, it's an easy dismissal, because she doesn't have time for that. You know what I mean? She at this age, she just does not have time for that. I don't have time for that if I was single my age. So I know she doesn't have time for it. And so that's one thing that I've admired about her is that she hasn't settled. And what's happening is that she's preparing herself for when it's time for her to receive her true king, that she doesn't have to settle. And there won't be any red flags or no BS going on.
Exactly.
And so when she says that about really just having that discernment, you need to have that discernment, you know, and getting a degree, furthering yourself up, really preparing yourself. That way you don't have to depend on a man or anybody else for you to be okay. Like, you're good either way, but just embracing your singleness and just coming to terms with, I'm single for now. God may bless me. He may not bless me with a significant other, but either way, I'm still good, and I'm still doing what I need to do to elevate and evolve in life. And so that was good. I appreciate that.
And then one more thing too, make
Yep.
sure your finances are in order as well. So it's okay to have a savings account, but just make sure that you can talk to a financial consultant
Mm,
on because right now, if you're 25, that means that if you continue to save and you get my age along with 65, that means that you probably have a nice little nest egg saved
hmm.
up for yourself.
I
So
love it.
then you won't have to be going and asking for loans and doing all this stuff, because you've sat there and established that,
I love it.
So yes.
This was good, moms. This was good. I
Yes,
appreciate you
yes.
coming
Thank you
on.
so much. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for giving just your story and your insight and wisdom. And, you know, I, obviously, I hope somebody's definitely for sure helped by this. But
Well,
yeah,
thank you
we,
for
we
having me.
appreciate you coming on. All right. So make sure you tapping in with us on IG, where we post reels from the episodes. And if you can't watch us, you can listen to us wherever you get the audio version of your podcast at Flip That Switch. So you can either tap in with us via YouTube or you can tap in with us via audio. But just make sure you're tapping in with us. And once again, thank you again for coming on. And we're going to see y'all for the next episode. And we out. Peace.
Thank you.